All right, off to Sriham and Jean-Jacques from IT Renew talking about repurposing and extending OCP designs for Edge.
Great, thanks everyone. Thanks for coming to our talk, and hope you're all enjoying OCP Tech Weeks thus far. From everything I've seen, the edge computing track has been pretty interesting thus far. So hopefully ours will be just as interesting. So let's get to it. Just a quick introduction. My name is Sriram Ramakrishna. I'm the Principal Ecosystems Engineer for IT Renew. And co-presenting with me is Jean-Jacques Chanu, who is our Mechanical Engineer at IT Renew. So we're both here to present repurposing and extending. Well, we're here to talk about how we can extend OCP designs into edge computing, so in short. So at first, I'd like to kind of start with a general view. There's many ways that we can do multi-layer cloud architecture in edge today. So we're really focused on the far edge architecture. I think most of this is fairly known to most of you. There's going to be a central data center, a hub that's going to have rack scale servers. It's going to be your performative engine. It's going to be everything you need to as the central hub of your business. Then branching out, we have your regional data centers. I don't think that's any surprise there. That's going to be the same kind of rack scale servers that you've seen and known. And but the interesting case is sort of the far edge or the local data center. And if you compare the regional data center, this is going to be tens amount of data center, not a lot. But when we start looking at the far edge or the local data center, that's going to be a large scaling sort of nodes, right? So it could go up to hundreds, it could be thousands, whatever. And this is what's going to be interesting to us based on what using OCP design here. We haven't had a huge presence, and of course, from what we've seen from this track, we're getting that presence today in multi-layer cloud architecture. And so we're having our own set of ideas on how OCP can be interesting in terms of design in multi-layer cloud architecture. So Jean-Jacques is going to talk about in the next slide a little bit more about focusing on that local or far edge data center.
Hi, everybody. So as Sriram told, there is not a single hardware design in edge architecture. So that's why we focus on the one we consider that there is the biggest gap between what exists and what is needed. That means the local data center. In hardware terms, local data centers requires low power, low latency, and the ability to be deployed in different environments, such as the location of an existing base station or even in an area not designed for it, IT hardware, such as offices or storage room, for example. It also means that the hardware can be in the same environment as non-IT people. For example, we are currently working on a behavioral recognition project for security purposes with a retailer who wants to deploy servers in its stores and wants certain maintenance operations to be performed by sales staff. This use case requires a small number of servers, only 4 at maximum, and it must be integrated into an existing site, and that means it must therefore respect the constraints of the latter, knowing that this site may have different requirements each time. For example, the flow load capacity could change, and we can have some problem with a fully equipped rack that would be too heavy, for example, or the size of the accesses, the doors and corridors could not fit with this need. So very hard to put a standard racks or even an OCP racks on that kind of place. So the equipment must not take up too much space and be very easy to install because here again, powering rack could be done by non-IT people. So that's something we're really looking at. This means we need to create equipment that is very easy to handle, secure, and does not require special skills. In fact, what we observe in that each scenario has its own constraints and requires highly modular hardware. So in the next slide, I will show you what would an edge OCP design look like. So currently, we are working on these three design. So the first design, the fast start you talked just before, is already in production. The two other, we are working on it. For us, this design corresponds to the constraints we have talked just before. All those this design have in common is that they are all compatible with OpenRack v2 servers and are based on the SLED form factor. That means not the edge design in the edge track, but really with the server design. Because I will see later, we strongly believe in the circular economy, and all our design are based with this circular economy component, and we always find a way to adapt this old design to new usage. And for us, edge computing could fit that need. So this first project, the fast start on the left, is a chassis on wheel that can embark up to 5 ORv2 servers, and it have a 10 gigabyte mini switch. But if you want more speed or create a cluster, for example, you also have the possibility to integrate a wedge on the side thanks to a little accessory. And we are fully in this kind of description of a simple product, easy to install and handled by anyone. In fact, it has a standard electrical outlet, and you just have to plug it into the wall and turn it on. The advantage of this type of product is that it can be easily be delivered and fully equipped and is completely plug and play. So the advantage is, for example, non-IT people, they can therefore easily receive it and install it, and we have no problem with the corridor dimension, the doors, and the load on the floor, as I told before. And this is a real design with a very easy access, and finally allow the use of the OCP technology to people in some place, so normally you don't access to that kind of equipment. The second project, just right after, finally is a more complementary to the fast start project. What we observe in local data center, we have more and more GPU needs in terms of calculation. So we are also developing a GBox solution that respects the SLED form factor of ORv2, which means that it can be integrated in a fast start and also in the other project on the right. I will talk about this later. But also in a standard rack, in a standard QB OpenRack v2. It can carry up to 4 Tesla or Quadro GPUs and requires a master servers with a SLED form factor too, like a Leopard or TogiaPass. That means that we could have up to 8 GPUs in a fast start chassis, for example. It's important for us to work on a more modular GPU solution with a small footprint than, for example, the Big Sur. Indeed, the edge require more and more GPU computing performance, especially at the far edge level. And for us, that means this kind of equipment that have a lower footprint and very small dimensions. And so that's why to be able to answer to some needs, we need to develop that kind of product. The sub-project at the right end is a 4U chassis hosting 4.7 in a SLED ORV2 form factor. This time the idea is to be able to install OCP sled in a standard right EIA while optimizing the dimension. Indeed, we keep a density of 1 server per U, and we don't lose space when switching from OpenU to standard U. In fact, the trick is to turn the server by 90 degrees. So we make some thermal test and it works. Indeed, why do we do that? Is that we have a lot of use cases where we must adapt OCP servers to existing installation that generally are using standard EIA racks that are not compatible with ORV2 designs. So finally, we give this idea to provide OCP solution where it wasn't possible before. So that's really the purpose of this. And also why we designed this. So as I told before, why do we use this kind of design with this this form factor, and we don't go on the open with open edge equipment? It's just because we want to use the old OCP equipment that are available and that can be used for this purpose. So we want to reuse the OCP data center equipment in order to provide a far edge equipment at a very low price under a circular economy model. So Sriram will show you a little bit more about edge computing and the circular economy model.
So one of the things thanks, Jean-Jacques. One of the things that I kind of wanted to do with the slide was sort of show that edge computing in the circular economy is such a great fit for what we do in OCP. And I will, as an aside, I wanted to just talk a little bit about the previous slide. And a lot of what we've been talking about in the last couple slides was form factors and the idea that we can use existing OCP designs in different forms. And so the interesting bit here is that in the last slide was modifying with existing OCP design. So that means that a corporation has OCP all the way right from their central data center could actually move that to a different form factor. So as equipment ages in your central data center, you could move that out towards the edge, right? So that means your total cost of ownership for what you purchase lasts quite a bit longer than the 3 years that you have it, because you can actually move them off into the edge. And you know, if it meets your requirements, of course. But for the most part, being able to do that allows you to extend the value of your equipment. Then just talking about the circular economy and those edge devices, given this huge supply chain that comes from recertified equipment, one of those things around the edges is this huge scaling that you have to do. And if you're trying to scale to hundreds or thousands of far edge nodes, you're going to want to leverage the circular economy here, because by leveraging the supply chain, the scalability, you're going to be able to do that scaling at much lower costs than you would otherwise. And so not only are you scaling, you're doing it with a low carbon footprint because you're reusing the equipment that's already out there. And so one of the things I want to take away from this is not only can you practice circular economy internally in your company, you can do it externally and so forth. Because even those things you have for Edge can continue a life even past that, right? So this is the exciting bits for me and for our company and just the circular economy is just this leveraging part. And this also makes OCP as a really attractive alternative to your general data center. Right? One of the things going through all these talks is just how much presence OCP is finally gaining, and I think this is something that is going to show value because of the adaptation that we can do with different form factors. And so this is sort of the kind of key points that I wanted to talk about. So we're sort of at the end of our talk, but to put my call of action out here, if you're interested in seeing from a practical perspective how we can change from different form factors, the Sesame Fast Start is a great way to do that, right? Because if you're taking nodes from a fast start, you can start with. In fact, it goes the other direction, right? You can do a proof of concept on a fast start and then move them to an OCP rack if it turns out to be great, right? So this sort of flow between back and forth can go in either direction. And so, just for that's a practical way to check it out. Of course, everything we do is open. And if you want to take a look at the design, the specs we have, we of course have the links here for you to take a look at. We expect to have a little bit more greater presence in the Telco Edge project in OCP. So looking forward to maybe answer any questions or anything like that. So that's pretty much from us, and I'm happy to take any questions here. As soon as I figure out how to get out of this full screen. Okay, there you go.
Thank you both. Let's see if there are any questions. Any questions for the team at IT Renew?
Yeah, there is one question. With that desktop or desk side form factor chassis, it was mentioned that there was a 10 gig mini switch that came along with it. Is that a managed or an unmanaged switch?
It's a managed switch.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
Right. And I've got one other question I'd like to go ahead and throw in there. When you, I haven't taken a look at the products on the marketplace yet, but is the chassis alone available for purchase, or do you typically populate that with one or many servers?
Generally, it's populated. I don't know if it's possible to buy it by itself. But certainly, if you're interested, just push me an email, and I will try to see if it's possible or not.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Actually, I think one new one just came up. Hold on a sec. Let me load it. Yeah, here's a question. Are you studying any life expectancy beyond warranty for equipment moved to the edge for a second life?
Yes, generally the equipment we use is only 3 years old at maximum. So we expect to extend their life to about 6 years. So it means 9 years of use in total.
Right. The expectation is you would go to a secondary market and then possibly a third. So each one is a 3-year span.
Well, and at the rate of the the evolution of compute components, 9 years is an eternity.
Yes, but what we are believing is that, for example, Edge could be just a step. So you could use it 3 more years. And of course, as the usage is changing, in fact, the role of the circular economy is to take some equipment. For example, you have the equipment in the data center. So this is the state of the art for the moment. After 3 years, you change them, okay? And so what do you do with this equipment? And so we're trying to find new usage for this equipment for 3 years. So with something that asks a little bit less power, or you can have as much power by using more for one, for example, 2 servers in place of 1. And after we're trying to find for the 3 other years. So that's the idea. Our idea is really to extend the life the life of this of every IT equipment. And in some use case on edge, of course, there are some use cases of edge that ask a lot of power. So for this kind of usage, this equipment will not fit really. But sometimes you just need some storage or that kind of things, and it's sufficient to meet the expectation.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This circular economy is a pretty significant movement, specifically here in Europe, but we're seeing it show more and more interest worldwide. So it's a big bet for us moving forward on what these guys are doing. So thanks again, Jean-Jacques and Sriram, for the information. And now we'll move on to the next presentation.